95% of all recruiters use LinkedIn. I have about 100,000 followers on LinkedIn. Somebody sent me a nasty comment. When you have people that are looking at you for a job and you left a comment like you've got,
and I wouldn't want that person representing the company. So, I struggle to understand, okay, what am I supposed to post? How often am I supposed to do it? What works? What doesn't work? What if the algorithm changes? How do people even know how the algorithm works?
Let's talk about the LinkedIn algorithm.
What is up, everyone? Welcome to Legit AF. We're the husband and wife team that talk about real issues, no BS. And we talk about navigating the personal, navigating the professional, and everything that life throws at you in between. You can catch us every Tuesday morning. That's when we drop new episodes. Follow us on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts, wherever you like to consume content, we will be there. I'm Pav alongside the queen herself, Jenny. Queen Jenny, how are you doing today?
Maybe I wrote these.
You wrote this intro.
I am doing great. I'm having a pretty good day. What about you?
I'm having a pretty good day myself. I gotta confess, my lips are chapped. So like once every 2 months, I get chapped lips. It's because I just don't drink enough water. You always tell me that I'm never drinking enough water. And then I also had a spicy lunch. So my lips are literally on fire while we're sitting here doing today's show.
So for those that are on, go check out the YouTube. This man looks like he got fillers.
I look like I'm wearing fillers and I have lipstick on.
You don't wear fillers.
Get fillers. I don't know.
What do you mean wear fillers?
I don't know anything about fillers. So
they inject the top of your lip with hyaluronic acid and it lasts for 9 to 12 months depending on your metabolism.
Well, in my case, it happens once every 2 months because I don't drink enough water and I get chapped lips.
Okay.
And then I have spicy food and I just make everything worse.
Yeah, you're very plump.
That's okay. I think it enhances my look today. Maybe it matches the sweater. I don't know. But either way, my lips feel terrible.
Well, your appearance is very important.
Well, I've got a face for audio, so hopefully most of our viewers and listeners are just listeners.
Wow, you just like totally updated it. It's supposed to be a face for radio, right?
What did I say?
You said face for audio.
Good enough. It's the same message. It delivers the same thing.
Okay.
So we have an interesting topic today. I think this one's right up your alley. It's going to be focused on social media. But before we get to it, I'm curious, what was your first social media handle? And maybe not social media handle, but like instant messaging, since we're 90s kids. What was the first handle that you had or that you can remember having?
Oh, I remember mine. Well, I remember it very well.
What, like goth girl something? What is it?
I was 10.
Okay, well, I don't know how early the goth thing started. It could have been started at 10.
What's wrong with you? God, ridiculous. My first social media handle was named after my cat, Nova.
Oh, wow. That's great.
Yep.
That's very
Nova
sweet
cat.
And very thoughtful and way better than mine.
What the hell did you have?
Well, so I was really big, I was a kid. So I was really big on the word
there has to be context.
havoc. Havoc was the word.
Oh, God. Havoc is okay, and you're calling me goth?
I was Havoc 1187 because I was 11 years old when I came up with it. But except instead of the H, I just flipped the brackets so that it made like a stylized H, if that makes sense. So it was just Havoc 1187.
Wait, you could have non-letters?
Well, I was using AOL Instant Messenger because I'm an American.
Well, in Canada, up in the Great White North, we didn't have, I don't know what you're talking about. We had Maple Syrup Messenger.
Maple Syrup Messenger.
Maple Mess.
MSN Messenger. You were using MSN.
MSN.
Which, by the way, nobody in America used. I'm pretty sure. I mean, recognizing I was a kid living in a small bubble, but AIM was the messaging app that everybody I ever knew was using. MSN was an international thing. ICQ was an international thing.
My sister had ICQ.
Yeah, nobody ever used that. AOL Instant Messenger. And then you got to a point where, you had the little icon that was that like AOL yellow buddy guy.
I don't know what this is.
You could customize it. So then I remember you got to a point where you could customize one with like a cool mohawk or, probably something to do with like Linkin Park or something. So those were good times. And then you could set a little away message and usually you left something cryptic, especially if you just got like dumped or something.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I remember you just like Man, you could change your name on MSN Messenger, which became Windows Messenger, I think it was, right? Because Windows bought MSN, I think.
Nobody knows. Again, we didn't use any of that stuff.
Yeah, well, I remember being in 8th grade and you would just like make it a really sad song.
Yeah.
It would just always be some sort of emo song.
Yeah.
Like some like My Chemical Romance lyrics or something.
And, we had dial-up. So anytime
Because you're old.
Thank you. Yes. Yes. In the olden times, you had to listen to that screeching noise when you were logging on to the internet. But my mom or my dad would pick up the phone and then, I'm in the middle of, 20 conversations with all of my friends and I get booted from the internet and then my life is over. So.
Yeah. Then you're ostracized. I think that's why the big social media app with the young kids like Alpha is Snapchat. They're so obsessed with Snapchat.
I think I've maybe used Snapchat once or twice. So
Do you remember, you ever seen the Snap Map?
Is that the thing that tells your friends where it tells you where your friends are based on where the snaps are? So you get like mad FOMO if you're not with your friends and they're off doing something fun without you.
My friend's kid went into depression and became like very mentally ill over the Snap Map because they were so worried about FOMO.
I mean, it makes sense. I didn't know where anybody was. I mean, most of my friends were just at home anyway. So it's not like there was anything really to write home about. But now that you could just tell where your friends are 24/7, it's not a good look.
No, I remember the way to find out where your friends were was to go check everyone's lawns to find whose bikes were there.
I would bike over to my friend's house.
No, you look and you're like, oh, purple bike, like Joey's here,
Or you got to call your friend and then you have to get mentally prepared to speak to their parent first.
Okay, worse than that, dating a boy, dating a girl, and you got to call their house.
I mean, I think that's just a rite of passage. That kids these days don't understand. You got to talk to the parent first.
Oh, worst. There's a boy on the phone, Jenny.
I mean, I think it's an important way to grow up, right?
Yeah.
You gotta learn how to navigate the parents.
So we are all grown up now, but interestingly enough, social media hasn't gone anywhere from when we were kids. In fact, today's topic is going to be about social media for grown-ups, aka LinkedIn. Okay. Today we're going to be talking about the basics of how to build a good LinkedIn page. The reason why you should listen to us is, well, I have about 100,000 followers on LinkedIn and I've learned a lot.
You've been the master about this. Like, this is really your bread and butter.
Yeah.
I'm just along for the ride. I'm probably going to learn a bunch of stuff myself because you're the actual LinkedIn master of the two of us.
For sure. But you've also hired, 1,500 plus people largely off of LinkedIn.
Fair enough.
We're a pretty good tag team duo to talk to you about LinkedIn today.
Fair enough.
So first things first, LinkedIn's very, very important. I started on LinkedIn 3 years ago in the pandemic because we were trapped inside and I just started sharing various things in a place that could allow for me to share writing. So at the time it was like everyone was using TikTok was new and everybody was using Instagram and I just didn't want to make videos. And so the only place I could see where you could do long writing, Twitter was short writing, was LinkedIn. And that's actually how my LinkedIn creator career started. I got my first viral post on LinkedIn in the very beginning of 2021. I reached over 10 million people. And that was how I realized that LinkedIn is a really big damn deal.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where I've gone since. So
yeah, I mean, it's a great way. Obviously, it's for professional networking and for finding jobs and finding candidates and things like that. But the way you present yourself on LinkedIn has an impact on what a potential client or a potential employer, how they're going to perceive you, right? The more put together you are, the more engaged you are, the better all that's going to go.
So first things first, 95% of all recruiters use LinkedIn. So if you don't exist on LinkedIn, there's a good shot that you don't exist as a job candidate.
I don't think I've ever hired a single person from, I won't name any names, but some of the other major quote unquote hiring, recruiting platforms and services. Most of the candidates that I've ever hired, if it's not from a referral, is typically from a place like LinkedIn.
Why is LinkedIn better than other platforms?
I think it's the social media element, right? Because you're not just applying for an open job that you see, you're really thinking about LinkedIn as a living version of your resume and who you are. And I think that makes a big impact on why it's a better platform to hire candidates from.
Yeah, 100%. I think that in terms of personal branding, if you're ever going to be reaching decision makers, you're going to reach them on LinkedIn. You're not going to find people on Instagram that are hiring managers. It's just literally not the nature of what these other social medias do. LinkedIn was created for job seekers. And although it has evolved in the last few years to become more of a mainstream social media site, it remains at its core a place for people to find jobs. So that means that when you are presenting yourself on LinkedIn, you need to present yourself as if a potential employer, a potential client, a potential coworker, they all see the person that you are and they want to work with you.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, I mean, there's always going to be exceptions to these rules, maybe certain creative roles or things like that aren't a great fit for LinkedIn might exist. But even still, I think a LinkedIn presence just makes a lot of sense. You should have one because people should know what you've done and they should be able to Google you and watch you pop up on LinkedIn and be able to see exactly what your resume looks like. And you can tell a better story about yourself too.
Yeah.
Resumes, they're these like relic that we still do and there's still value in them, but it's ultimately just like a piece of paper that's got a list, you're barfing out a bunch of things that you've done over the last 15 to 20 years or whatever. With LinkedIn, you can actually tell a story about who you are and you can actually brand yourself. And that's something that you just can barely do on a static PDF that you're emailing somebody.
Absolutely. And what's really interesting about LinkedIn that people don't realize is you can actually do a complete rebrand, which is what I did. So I was a Silicon Valley lobbyist and completely rebranded myself as an entrepreneur and a venture capitalist in a new industry just by building my LinkedIn content around it. So I actually still had a job in my old industry and started becoming well known in this new industry simply by being part of the conversation and posting.
So I think this is something that a lot of people are going to want to know more about because as people make changes in their careers or they're considering entire new career paths, this idea of rebranding yourself can seem pretty daunting. I mean, admittedly, that was true for me as well. Suddenly you're trying to position yourself as something different. How do you even begin to plan or go about a process like that?
So for LinkedIn, one of the great things you can do is you can take a look at when you're on a profile that you like, you can go take a look at who's looking at other profiles similar to them. So if you're trying to learn a new industry, oftentimes if you go to a profile of a person who you like their thoughts, you can see similar profiles. And so what I would recommend if you're getting started in a new industry or you're younger or you're transitioning, whatever it might be, it's really important to go follow and connect if you can. A lot of people that have large profiles maybe can't connect with you, but go follow the people that are making content in that and then search for people that you don't know that are also listed as similar to them. One of the things that I've noticed is that if you want to become well known in a new industry, you can actually just start by commenting on people's posts. And as you create more and more consistent engagement in the topic that you are trying to become known for, the rest of the world starts to see your comments and they start engaging and they might go follow you as a result. So it's really important to engage with other profiles if you're doing that rebrand. The number one thing you don't want to do though, the number one thing that's going to make you sink your brand is putting low value comments, spamming or using AI, clickbait comments on people's profiles.
Like, hey, here's my services. Click here to learn more, like in a comment or something like that.
Okay. So 3 things you don't do. Do not spam people. Okay. Do not leave solicitations on their post. They will delete them or you'll get marked as spam and you could potentially get banned, which has happened to people I know. Do not leave a low value comment. The only thing worse than not saying anything at all is saying something low value. I literally just got somebody who commented, who maybe I'll give him a call out, that left a comment on my Mark Zuckerberg video that I have daddy issues.
Ah, yes, that's a very low valw comment.
Yeah. So I can see where this guy works.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I can see who his boss is.
That's
so great. Good job. Good job, buddy.
Yeah.
And then the third thing that
save that stuff for Facebook.
Well, how about save it for your own head? Don't say that kind of stuff.
Fair point.
But you leave the wrong comment. You start treating LinkedIn like Facebook. Don't be surprised if you end up on the other end of a mob like on Facebook, right? I mean, play stupid games, win stupid prizes.
I'm really surprised at how triggered people get on LinkedIn over like professional content and just how they react to things. It's wild to me.
Yeah. What you need to remember about LinkedIn is that your employer is tied to your profile. This is not anonymous like TikTok. It's not anonymous like Instagram. Even to some degree, Facebook doesn't necessarily have your livelihood attached to it, but LinkedIn solely exists to be your living, breathing resume and your body of work. And the fastest way to trash it in 2 seconds is by leaving that kind of stuff on someone's post. Because if it gets picked up by the wrong people, and I have seen, we went viral last year. We were picked up in major media, entire feature on Business Insider, because somebody sent me a nasty comment.
Yep. I remember that.
And that person had to block and remove, the damage that happened to their professional career because of what they decided to say in that moment was significant.
So this is kind of blowing my mind in real time. And I'm almost embarrassed to admit that I've never really had this realization before. LinkedIn is generally a more positive place. And it has to be because people's real identities are tied to everything that they post. I think there's value in anonymous posting. I think it's, free speech. It's important to have some version of that. You can certainly have that on other platforms. But I think with LinkedIn, because it's A, your identity is tied to it, and B, it's tied to your employer, your livelihood. People are just most of the time better behaved than they are on other parts of the internet. Your identity is visible on Facebook and people are sometimes pretty terrible there. But I think it's that employer piece on top of it that makes people generally behave better on LinkedIn.
So again, if you take nothing else from this episode about how to build a better LinkedIn, remember that this is attached to your livelihood when you engage on this profile or on this platform. So a couple big points I'm going to list real quick of how to improve your profile, which again, a lot of people don't get the basics right. Number 1, put your photo in. I will not accept or engage with a single account that does not have a photo. Do you?
Absolutely not. I assume it's either a bot or somebody that's put zero effort into their LinkedIn.
Okay. So get a photo and none of this selfie crap. Okay. Don't put a selfie on LinkedIn. Don't put a filter on LinkedIn. You look like an idiot. I'm sorry.
Tell us how you really feel.
No, here's my very first LinkedIn headshot. Do you remember me taking that photo in our tiny little San Francisco apartment? I propped up my phone. I waited for the right light on my iPhone, and then I blurred it manually with Snapseed on my phone to make a headshot that I shot myself because it was the pandemic. Okay. So absolutely do not put that as your photo. It makes you look unserious. Okay. You also need to make sure you fill in your headline. Weirdly enough, some people still don't fill their headline in. Your headline does not have to be your job title, but it should hit the keywords that exemplify, what your expertise is, such as chief marketing officer. And then you could say some of the places you used to work, for instance, in there, or dedicated sales professional. You don't have to say your title of where you are today is your title, but you should put the high level about what your career is today. You also need to make sure you fill in your about section. It's not the most read piece. Do you read the about section?
Almost never, no. I mean, again, my use case is specifically for recruiting, so I typically scroll right to people's experience.
Exactly. So that's why I was going to say, so your about section, I would fill it in, but it is not that important. What is actually important is your experience. Your experience needs to be up to date. It needs to include your role. It needs to include your dates. And please make sure that you actually link it to the correct LinkedIn page. Because I see people all the time where they write the name of where they worked and that is a company page, but they didn't link it. So it just looks like it's not a real company.
Yeah. Speaking of linking, put your LinkedIn on your resume. You're usually giving a PDF, just include the link. Make sure that you've got your name as your link or as close as you can get, whatever's available, not just like a random string of numbers and characters, and include it on your resume. I typically, when I get a resume, I just click on the LinkedIn link and I go straight to LinkedIn. That's almost 100% of what I do when somebody sends me a resume.
Yeah, absolutely. I think a lot of recruiters probably prefer to look at LinkedIn to resumes at this point.
100%. 100%.
So what do you see as a red flag on a LinkedIn?
Yeah. So I think typically I will look at someone's experience and just make sure that obviously it meets what we're looking for. One of the things that I'll typically do, especially if it's for more senior roles, is I'll almost immediately go into their activity and see what kind of stuff they've been posting. Mm-hmm. It is not rare that I come across somebody that's posting absolute nonsense and I wouldn't want that person representing the company. So it happens, right? I see stuff that they're posting and I don't like it. And I think that it's potentially damaging to the organization. So I just pass on those candidates. I don't even talk to those people, even if they're qualified, because they're just showing how they behave online. So it's the second thing that I look at right behind someone's experience.
I think a lot of people don't realize that it shows on your LinkedIn what you have been posting.
Yeah.
Not just what you have been posting, but your LinkedIn also shows what you are commenting on other people. And that is there for the public to review. So when you have people that are looking at you for a job and you left a comment like you've got daddy issues, you're screwed.
Yeah.
You're absolutely screwed. And I think that a lot of people aren't realizing that LinkedIn has essentially not just the ability to be your living, breathing resume and portfolio and body of work and your expertise in the posts that you do, but it also, has the ability to actually show how you interact as a person.
So I want to touch on one more thing before we wrap up. And I think the thing that gives me the most anxiety about social media in general, and it's definitely true for LinkedIn, and that's just the almighty algorithm. I struggle to understand, okay, what am I supposed to post? How often am I supposed to do it? What works? What doesn't work? What if the algorithm changes? How do people even know how the algorithm works? So that's something that you could definitely educate me on.
Let's talk about the LinkedIn algorithm. So LinkedIn's algorithm is always changing. So please, what I'm telling you today could, of course, change in a few months' time. The LinkedIn algorithm right now is really prioritizing video content because they want to become more like a YouTube or TikTok platform. We're going to see that likely taper off going into Q2. So right now you're getting a lot of impressions on video content.
Sure.
If your video content is hitting the wrong people, you'll notice that there's people getting hundreds of thousands of impressions on videos and maybe 30 likes. So more and more impressions on content, if it's not hitting your target audience, is not always the best for getting new clients or reaching the people you want to reach. I also want to say, here are the laws of LinkedIn, according to Jenny. I always post in the morning. Most people are checking their LinkedIn in the morning. Look at where your audience is. If your audience is East Coast based or Pacific based, or maybe they're over in England, I have a lot of people that follow me from London as well. Look at when they're most active and then think about when to post based on where the majority of your audience lives. Also, make sure that you are posting consistently. You do not need to post every single day like on TikTok. There are platforms where you need to post every day or multiple times a day. On LinkedIn, honestly, 3 to 4 times a week is totally fine. You do not need to be on every day. I think it's most important most of the time to focus on getting high quality engagement on your posts. I understand that impressions look good. Impressions make us feel good. We get that little dopamine hit that so many people are seeing our posts. But if they're not engaging with our post and we're not getting new connections out of it, we're not getting meaningful conversations, those impressions aren't necessarily serving us. So focus on creating high quality content that drives meaningful engagement, which the hallmark of LinkedIn has always been so much of the quality happens in the comments section. It's almost like Reddit in that way, where comments are so important. So that's where you really want to make sure that your audience is learning and engaging, is going directly into the comments, sharing feedback, sharing knowledge, sharing expertise. And that's really what makes it stand apart from some of the other socials.
LinkedIn cares that there's discussions and conversations going on around your post. And that's why those things ultimately are important.
Exactly. Yeah. LinkedIn really cares about your post making conversation in a good way, in a constructive way.
Yeah.
Don't just post, clickbait stuff just because you're going to get people commenting. LinkedIn wants to see quality content, because what LinkedIn has that other sites don't have is the highest quality people in the world all in one spot, even for just 10 minutes a day. That is where you can actually make true progress, like for industries. Like one CEO comments on something. I've seen people break news when a high-level executive just leaves a comment on a video on LinkedIn.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we could talk about this for days. And perhaps this is just our LinkedIn 101 first pod.
Well, I just think it's really interesting because this is just stuff that doesn't really come naturally to me. I mean, I use LinkedIn, as we said, from from the hiring perspective. And the social media stuff has always just been a bit of an enigma to me. So it's helpful to understand how these things work and how LinkedIn thinks about promoting certain content and how to optimize your own profile page and so on and so forth. So
yeah. And
I've certainly learned something.
Absolutely. So before we wrap, the thing that I want to remind people about LinkedIn is that it is bought by Microsoft, and Microsoft is the most enduring tech company, you know, of our lives. Essentially, Microsoft is long game. Everything about Microsoft is long game. You know, it took them years before they really started turning on the LinkedIn algorithm and really started growing it. They've owned it for many, many years. I remember when they bought it, was it like 7 years ago? So think of LinkedIn as a long game. You might see these new little social medias pop up here and there, and they're very hot for 6 months time. We've seen them. I've participated in them. LinkedIn will stand the test of time. I absolutely guarantee it.
Okay. We shall see. I think you're right, but let's
Microsoft doesn't just like, they're not messing around.
For sure. All right, let's move on. Ready?
Okay. All right.
Okay, time for legit or lame. I'm going to throw out some random things your way. You're going to tell me if they're legit AF or lame AF, and let's see if we're on the same page on these things. Did you look at the ones for today?
I saw one.
You saw one?
Okay.
Okay, well maybe I'll have to change them on the spot just to throw you off a little bit. Number 1, cold plunges.
I'm going to go legit AF as a Canadian.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
I'm into it. I think it's cool. We don't have a cold plunge, but I think it is a really cool trend. That's one of the wellness trends I'm into. I
don't know if it's bro science or not, but it certainly makes me feel better when I take a cold shower or do a cold plunge on the off chance that I get to do it. I tried to convince you to let me buy one, and you were like, "You don't need to." Yeah,
you were gonna buy like a $3,000 one. Like, just fill a freaking bucket, man.
I mean, I feel like if you're gonna buy one, you might as well have a nice one.
That's how you feel about everything in life, honey.
Fair enough. I mean, ultimately, a cold shower does the trick. So.
Yeah, it's like really basic stuff, honey.
I do it a few times a week. Well, I'll just at the end of the shower, I just turn it to cold and just stand under the shower, tolerate it for as long as I can. Granted, nowhere near as cold as a cold plunge, but I still feel like it wakes me up and gets me energized for the day.
I do it so that it seals my hair cuticles with the conditioner.
Neat. That's not a thing that I ever think about at all.
Boys suck. Okay.
But I'm glad that you do. Okay. Last one, cilantro.
You know, I used to think I was lame AF on cilantro, and once I've reached adulthood, I'm actually into it. I would say it's legit AF.
So I don't have that weird thing where cilantro tastes like soap or anything like that, but I just don't love it. I don't feel like it actually makes food taste better. Maybe I do have the gene and I just don't understand what the problem is. But you. I just don't like it. I don't know. Yeah. It's just never really been like a flavor that I particularly enjoy. And I just don't like how it gets stuck in your teeth.
You like cumin?
Yeah, I like cumin for sure.
You don't actually know which one that is.
Don't know which one.
No, I do all the cooking. It's all good. I know what she likes. That was really cute that you pretended to know what that was.
Get through it?
You're like, yes, I do like cumin.
Yes, cumin, of course.
I know. I could have made up a world. I could be like, you like carrot's breath, and you're like, what's that? And I'm like, it's a spice you like. You're like, okay, honey.
Is it red?
God, it's like reddish brown. Okay. Cilantro. I'm gonna go legit.
Okay, I'm going to get us out of here before I embarrass myself any further.
I'm going to just start saying fake stuff just to like watch you roll with it.
Okay, I'm going to put an end to this. If you've got comments or topics you want to see us cover, follow us on LinkedIn, on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, basically anywhere we're Legit AF Pod, or you can always drop us a line at legitafpod.com. Remember to follow, remember to subscribe, remember to comment. You can find us anywhere. Good to see everybody.
Leave reviews.
This little
cumin boy and I are out.
Peace out.